Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here, and I'm actually back on some For Honor. I wanted to make a video about the Season 2 gear stats. This is kind of confusing, and a lot of people might need some help with this. So I pretty much did a lot of research on it, and I also tested some stuff myself, and I believe I know exactly what is the best gear stats that you guys should be using, depending on your hero, because some of this will be different depending on whatever type of hero you like to play. So I'm going to break it all down and tell you what you want for each type of hero and why is it good. Now for each piece of gear, you really have two options on what you can do. You can either have two stats getting boosted, and one stat of course is going to be greatly boosted, the other one's going to be somewhat boosted, and then you're going to have one stat that's going to be negative. Or you can actually get like a balance between all of them. So for a lot of the pieces, you really don't need the balance. Some of the pieces, it's actually kind of nice to have that balance. But for most of the pieces, I don't think you really need it. And for the helmet, this is a great example. I go for defense, and I go for a lot of exhaustion recovery. The reason for this is because there's a lot of fucking cancer in this game, and the Centurion will drain your fucking stamina, and he will fucking keep it down. So you definitely want exhaustion recovery, in my opinion, just to get your stamina back if that happens to you. Because if you lose your stamina against a Conqueror, a Warden, or against a Centurion, it's like GG a lot of times, and you don't really want that. So the other option is you could go for a little bit more defense and then have 55% exhaustion recovery, but I personally don't think that's all that great because you're getting 1% defense in exchange for like 20% exhaustion recovery. I definitely think that this is the one you want. Debuff resistance, I don't think is a big deal in this season, so you can go ahead and make that negative and instead just go ahead and go for defense and a lot of exhaustion recovery. Alright, now moving on to the chest, this is going to be different depending on your hero. Now if you have an unblockable move that will knock the opponent down, I definitely think duration is something that you want. That's my personal opinion, but I really like duration for any unblockable move that will knock the opponent down, like the Lawbringer, the Warlord, the Warden, the Conqueror, or Centurion. I definitely think duration is good because once you knock them down, you can do big damage to them, and you can just keep knocking them down. So definitely, duration is good for those kind of builds. But if you're like an assassin, or you don't have a move like that that can knock the opponent down, and you just keep knocking them down, then I think you can go ahead and go for negative duration and go for defense instead. Now the purpose of that is because what you would want to do with your revenge is you build it up, you pop it, you knock the enemies down, and then you go ahead and just do massive damage to them, and then it will wear off like really quickly, and then you can go ahead and build it back up, get your shield again, and just keep repeating that. So I think for like any hero that doesn't have some type of unblockable knockdown move, you definitely want to go ahead and negative the revenge mode duration. I just think that's better for those heroes. But for anybody who does have that kind of move, 100% I think that you want the duration, but you definitely want the defense. 100% you want to greatly boost the defense. The reason for this is that they have separated the stats now. They used to stack, so defense and revenge mode defense were like stacking together, and it was like really, really overpowered. Same with attack. So they went ahead and changed that, and now they're two separate things. It is a bummer lowering your defense by 8%, but in the end, we're only going to lower it by like maybe 1% overall. So that is something to kind of like balance it out. Having like negative 1% defense, it's really not a big deal in my opinion. But you definitely want the revenge mode defense, and you also want the duration if you have an unblockable knockdown move. Without that though, like if you're an assassin, definitely just go for the defense because it's going to serve you better anyway because you're going to be kind of flimsy. So the defense will be a lot better. Moving on to the arms. Now you have several options here. I decided to go ahead and make my stamina regen negative, but I do have stamina cost reduction and I have a pretty nice amount of defense. So if I combine the 4% defense with my helmet, which is 3%, I have 7% defense buff. And then with the chest piece, I have a negative 8.1% defense debuff. So in the end, I pretty much have a negative 1.1 defense, which is really not a big deal. But to me, I definitely do like these arms a lot, but you could go for a balanced version of this because with the balanced version, you get 2.7% defense, you get like 11 or 10% stamina cost, and same with the regen. You get about 10% for the cost reduction and for the regen. So that's actually kind of nice in my opinion. If you're like an assassin or something, I would say that you definitely would want to go ahead and get the defense on the chest piece, and then maybe go for a balance for the arms. That's something you could do, and it probably would work out really well. But for my Conqueror right now, I'm going for the negative stamina regen, because a lot of times you're going to go into revenge mode anyway, and if you're in revenge mode, you have infinite stamina, so it really doesn't matter. But I kind of go back and forth all the time. I go to the balanced version of it, I go to the negative stamina regen version. I really can't make up my mind which one I like the most, but it's really up to you on what you might want. Now moving on to the weapon. Now this is one that you could go for the balance, but I don't like it. Now if you have an unblockable move that is like a combo, like a Warden, where you're going to shoulder charge into people and get free damage, Art the Centurion, where you kick them and you get free damage, and then you punch them and you get free damage, and same with the Conqueror, you don't need fucking block damage because you're really not attacking them too much, and they're not going to be able to block your unblockable moves that will set up your damage. So that's my way of thinking about it. But in general, I'm just not a big fan of block damage. I've never been a big fan of it. It's not like real chip. It doesn't really fucking help me out a lot. Now, maybe for an assassin, it can be somewhat good, but for me, I've never even noticed it, to be quite honest. Defense penetration is interesting. From my understanding of this perk, what it does is that it will balance the game out a little bit. So if you are starting on a hero and you have no gear at all, and you fight against someone who has max gear, you actually will be kind of in an even playing field, because defense penetration will allow you to actually damage a guy with like maximum defense. So even with like max gear stat, I think there's value to defense penetration, because I have like a -1 defense. If I come across someone who has like maximum defense, I'm pretty sure my defense penetration will kick in and allow me to actually damage that person and kind of even the playing field. So I think it is a good perk, but I really don't like block damage. And as the Conqueror, I definitely want the attack. I want as much attack as I can get, because unfortunately, the Conqueror has some of the weakest attacks in the game, and I fucking hate that about him. But for most other builds, if you want to go for the balance here, go for the balance. It's not too bad. Moving on to the handle, I decide not to go for revive speed, because I normally will only revive people when there's no one around. If I'm like in the middle of a fight, there's no way I'm going to revive you, even with like a lot of revive speed. I'm going to get hit, I'm going to fucking die. It's really fucking annoying. So I only ever revive people when there's like no one else around, or if I'm fighting like a one-on-one with somebody, I kill them, then I revive my teammate, because it's a lot safer that way. So I don't really like revive speed, it's not my thing. So instead, I go for maximum attack, and then my secondary effect is execution health regen. Now, if you want the opposite effect, you can get 5% attack and then 36.8% execution health regen. So you can do either one, it's up to you. But for me, I want as much attack as possible, and I want to be able to kill people with my heavy, because that's something as the Conqueror, man, it's a real fucking bummer. Unfortunately, because of the new system where you have negative attack, the Conqueror starts to feel like the year one Conqueror, where you can't finish anybody off with one heavy. And that was something that they buffed. They actually fixed that shit, because it was so frustrating where you're fighting a guy and you just couldn't kill him as the Conqueror. You kept hitting him with a heavy, but he kept surviving, and he was able to run away and then get his health back, and then you still couldn't kill him. It was so fucking frustrating. If you make your attack too low and you minus that shit, you will go right back to that, where you cannot kill people with one heavy when they're really low health. And that is really fucking annoying as the Conqueror. Now moving on to the shield, for this one, I do go for the negative attack. See, this is where you start to play with fire a little bit. That's why I have to balance it out. I have to get the 6.7% attack, and then I minus it by 6.7%, and then with my other piece, I plus it. And by doing that, then I'm able to still kill people with one heavy when they're really, really weak. So I do like that a lot. But definitely, I think that you want to minus the attack here, because you want revenge gain, and you want to have revenge mode attack. Now remember, attack does not stack with revenge mode attack anymore. But revenge gain is now actually kind of cool, because that is going to be revenge gain by defense, and it's going to be revenge gain by injury. So they have combined these two stats together, and now you're going to actually gain a lot of revenge just by getting hit or blocking. And 4v4, you really want to focus on revenge, because the chance of you getting ganked and overran is very fucking high. Like, people are going to team up on you, and this will bring you back into the fight and allow you to kick their fucking ass. So 100%, I think that you want to set your build up so that you're able to deal with 1v1s, and it's kind of like actually fighting a brawl or a duel. And then when someone comes to gank you, you can get your revenge and you can just go fucking crazy on them and murder them. So I definitely say for this piece, it's kind of universal. Minus your attack and then make it up with other like things. So you make up that attack with other stuff. And then you go ahead and you go for revenge mode attack and revenge gain. You definitely want that 100% for like every build because of all the ganking. Alrighty guys, so that's pretty much it for all my gear stats. Those are my choices, and I hope that this video has helped because I really wanted to kind of explain it. Remember, depending on your hero, you're going to want different things. But for the most part, a lot of the stats are kind of the same, and you really do want to focus on revenge because you're playing 4v4, and it's kind of cancer where people come to like double and triple team you. But it's always really nice to pop that revenge and then like just fucking murder them. So that is really awesome. Alrighty guys, well I would really appreciate it if you could like this video for me. Be sure to subscribe for future videos, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.